Okay, so today I'm going to make spinach and artichoke cups. What I should be saying is that this recipe comes from a book called Simple 1, 2, 3 Appetizers. Really great book. Now, making the wonton cups is easy, using wonton wrappers. And starting with one package at a time, open them up. Now I'm using mini cupcake tins. In the book itself it says to spray the tins, but the wonton wrappers themselves have plenty of flour on them, as you can see. So I have never actually done that. And you just tuck the wrappers into the cups. Now, when they fold in, they're going to crinkle up a bit. When I do it, see, when they fold in, you see how it crinkles? Then I just fold that back and use a fair bit of pressure so that it goes into the cup itself. Because what will happen is that when you cook it, that will go hard and open up and make the cup quite small for when you need to fill it later. As you're doing this, you set your oven to 300 degrees to be able to bake the cups. The filling, if you don't want to make the cups, you just want to make it as a dip, it works very, very well. You just put it in an oven-proof bowl and bake it that way. And then our oven is all ready, so I'm just going to pop this one in while I prep the second tray. And we'll set the timer for 9 minutes. It says 9 minutes or until golden. Okay, so there's the first tray. You can see how in the cooking it popped up a bit here. Now they look a little bit light, but they're going to get recooked again when the dip gets in them. So that's perfect. So now we'll put the other ones into the oven. So the recipe calls for an 8-ounce tin of artichoke hearts. I have a small jar here with savory, and depending upon how your own tastes, you can increase or decrease things like artichoke and spinach at your pleasure. So I'm just going to use the whole jar because we really like this dip. So I'm going to actually make a little extra dip so that it goes beyond the cups itself. And then we can just use chips or crackers. And remember to keep your fingertips out of the way. Use your knuckles as a guide, and the knife will run smoothly and consistently. Now, I'm using a 10-inch Wusthof chef's knife, but you don't have to use something that big. Most people don't. They would either have an 8-inch or a 6-inch chef's knife. Regardless of what knife you use, it needs to be sharp. Once you've got that cut up nice and fine, goes into the bowl. Large batch I'm making, I've got quite a large clove of garlic. I'm just breaking the skin off of it so that it peels easily. Makes it a little more palatable, because germ, it can be bitter and harder to digest. There we go. And then mince it up. Now you can use a garlic press. Then you've got to clean the screen out of it. But I like to keep my cutting skills sharp. The recipe actually calls for frozen thawed spinach, but I've tried it with that. And I've tried it with fresh spinach. And the fresh spinach tastes much, much nicer and mixes a lot better. Now, the trick with things like spinach or some herbs, even, you take a bundle of it and you put your knife flat, and then you can push it against the knife, and as you lift, it pushes underneath the blade, and you come down and you mince it up nice and easily. Just make sure to keep it rolled tight against the blade, and you should have no problem. Now, the recipe calls for Monterey Jack cheese, which I don't have, but I have cheddar, I have mozzarella. It also calls for Parmesan cheese, which I do have. Now you can buy the already shredded, which would make your life easier. We don't do that because it's more expensive. So I just shred my own. We'll add the Parmesan into that as well. Now, I like to blend it. It becomes more consistent that way throughout the dip itself. But the recipe itself calls for half a cup of mayonnaise, but as you can see, I'm making a fair bit, so I'm going to start with a cup and blend that in, and we'll probably need more after that. Now we'll blend this in and we'll add the cheese after. You can see it all coming together there now. A little pepper. And a bit of salt. Mix that all in. Now we'll add the cheese. You don't need to add as much cheese. I'll be posting the actual recipe, but I always like to sort of play with the flavors a little bit. This one's going to be very cheesy. You see how nice and smooth that is now. How blended. And that's actually ready. These baking sheets look a little funny. It's because they're it's actually stoneware. It's Pampered Chef. Okay, so there's the first tray, and we'll just finish adding to that. Okay, so now we'll start filling the cups up. You don't need a lot. Put a tablespoon each, maybe a bit more. And if you make less dip, then put less in each cup. You may have noticed that I'm shaping this with 2 spoons. There's nothing special about that. It's just easier to get into the cups that way. You get this tray into the oven, and it goes into the oven for 7 minutes. So there's the finished product. What it looks like, as you can see, the cups have gone a little bit darker from that second cook, and the filling has all blended together. So if you like what you see, subscribe on YouTube to This Old Guy Cooks, and follow me on Instagram. Enjoy.